Welcome everyone to tonight's meeting of the Port Phillip City Council. The City of Port Phillip respectfully acknowledges the traditional owners of this land, the people of the Kulin Nations. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present. We acknowledge and uphold their continuing relationship to this land. Now, this meeting is being conducted in a hybrid style and is streamed via Council's webcast page and Facebook Live. Streams and recordings of Council meetings are copyrighted and cannot be altered, reproduced or republished without the permission of Council. If we experience any technical difficulties this evening, we'll take a short recess and try to fix it up. I will remind attendees that any member of the public addressing Council must extend due courtesy and respect to Council and the processes under which it operates, and must take direction from the Chair whenever called on to do so. Speakers must remain respectful, and statements or questions must not be defamatory, offensive or objectionable, aimed at embarrassing a councillor or a member of Council staff, or relate to a matter outside of the powers of Council. I'll also ask attendees if you could not approach councillors at the desk. If you have anything you'd like to distribute, please, if you could see the governance staff near the door, and they will take care of handing anything out for you. So let's get started with apologies. Councillors, do we have any apologies? We have two leaves of absence that have been registered, Councillor Consolo, the Mayor, and Councillor Baxter. And I also note that we have Councillor Pearl online. So is he there yet? No, we hope he is coming. Okay, so Councillor Pearl will be online for the meeting tonight. Councillors, the minutes of the previous...
I'm here.
You're here? Excellent, that's what we want to hear. Councillors, the minutes of the Council meeting of the 19th of June 2024 and the special Council meeting of 26th of June 2024 have been circulated. Are there any questions regarding these minutes? If not, can I have a mover to... Okay, Councillor Nyagui and Councillor Martin to second. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Declarations of conflicts of interest. Does anyone have a conflict of interest in a matter being discussed at tonight's meeting? No? That means we'll move on. We're now going to take a moment to have a condolence motion for Janine Simmons, and our CEO, Chris Carroll, will make the statement.
Through you, Mayor, and thank you. Janine Simmons joined the City of Port Phillip in 2008 as a senior property advisor. In subsequent years...
Madam Mayor, could I ask people in the gallery to cease talking?
Councillor, you could let me take care of that.
Sorry.
Yep.
Sorry, I meant
just about to get to it. Everyone, if we could keep quiet, especially, please, through a condolence motion.
Thank you, Mayor. And through you, I'll start again. Janine Simmons joined the City of Port Phillip in 2008 as a senior property advisor, and in subsequent years contributed significantly across our contract and procurement, as well as our people and culture teams. Janine left council in June after a long battle with illness. Janine was not only a highly valued team member, but also a cherished friend to many within the organisation. She supported numerous projects and helped countless colleagues. Janine also supported sector development. This was evidenced by being selected as an independent assessor in the LG Pro Team Development Program for many years. Her presence was characterised by a calm demeanour, clarity in communication, and widespread respect throughout the sector and the organisation for her expertise, business acumen and way of doing business. On behalf of councillors and officers, I express my sincere condolences to Janine's family and her friends.
So, councillors, I seek someone to move the motion that Council expresses its deep regret on the passing of Janine Simmons, offers its sincere condolences to their family and places on record its appreciation for her service to the City of Port Phillip. Councillor Martin to move, Councillor Bond second. Did you want to speak to it, either of you? No, that fantastic. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Before we get into public question time, we just want to defer an item of tonight's agenda. So, councillors, in accordance with Rule 19 of Council's governance rules, the CEO has requested and I have approved the removal of item 13.1, the Civic and Community Flag Protocol, which was to be considered in tonight's meeting. This is being removed to allow councillors to receive a full briefing on the matter, and it will be tabled at a future council meeting. Moving now to public question time and submissions. We will hear all public questions and submissions on report items, of which there are very few tonight. Under Council's governance rules, public questions can only be asked about items not on the agenda. Therefore, public questions will be referred to an officer for response. There are some repetitive questions, we will only respond to that specific part once. If you are speaking to an agenda item tonight, a councillor may wish to take up the question on your behalf when the item is considered. I'm going to give each speaker 2 minutes. I just remind you that it is question time, so please get to the question quickly. So firstly, we're going to start online. And Chris Sargood, are you online with us to ask your question? Chris, can you hear me?
Yes, I think I can.
Yes, great. Chris, could you state your name and suburb, and then you've got 2 minutes.
Chris Sargood from Elwood. Several gates to the Elwood Primary School Park were zip-tied at around 5:30 p.m. last Saturday afternoon. This severely limits the use of this public space and is potentially dangerous, especially after dark. 2 people wearing orange high-vis jackets were seen fastening these ties. My question is, given that they were almost certainly council employees, is this action permitted under the guidelines for open space management? And if not, what can be done about it? Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. Nellie Montague will answer the question. Thanks, Nellie.
Through you, Mayor, and thank you, Chris, for the question. I can confirm that it was Council Animal Management officers that zip-tied some of the gates at Elwood Primary School Park on Saturday the 29th of June. The cable ties were put in place to attempt to prevent dog owners from re-entering the park and unleashing their dogs, as officers were concerned about the children playing on the AstroTurf within the reserve. However, officers were not directed to do this, and it was not done in consultation with their supervisor. Once alerted to this action, the supervisors have instructed officers to remove the cable ties and not to undertake this type of action again. We apologise to the community for any inconvenience caused and can confirm cable ties will not be put back on the gates.
Thank you. I call upon Betty J joining us online, also submitting a question to Council. Betty, are you there?
I am, thank you,
Oh,
Madam Mayor, councillors. I'll get straight to it. There is
if you could just state your name and I know we know where you're from, but yeah, suburbs, just so it's on the record.
Sorry, I feel like everyone's got me on speed dial these days. My name is Betty J. I'm from South Melbourne, the Domain Precinct. I'm here to speak on behalf of my group and some of our residents. There is intrusive lighting and artwork that's affecting the sleep and sanity of many residents in Port Phillip. 11 Eastern in South Melbourne is ablaze with neon lighting all night. The Oasis residence on Kingsway, South Melbourne has uber bright lighting on the top of the building, yet no one lives there yet. Beach House in St Kilda has got the glary light on top also. We are all entitled to peaceful enjoyment of our homes. So we, the residents, really want to know how and why were these buildings approved to have what we consider light pollution, and what is the council doing to ensure the peace of its current residents while approving so much new development for future residents. My question tonight is, what can you do to help and support the local community and the future builds in this area? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Paul Wood to respond. Oh no, Lauren Bilkower.
Sorry, through you, Mayor. External lighting on buildings is a common design element to accentuate the architecture. Lighting design on buildings is required to have regard to Australian standards for the control of the obtrusive effects of outdoor lighting. Council has a limited role in the approval of external lighting on buildings. However, we can investigate whether lighting adversely impacts the amenity of a neighbourhood. In relation to the question about council approval, 11 Eastern does have a lighting strategy that forms part of their permit. However, this strategy shows where the lights are but doesn't specify the levels of lighting. The permit for Oasis has no reference to lighting. So we're happy to work with Ms J further to investigate the amenity issues she raises.
Thank you. Now I call upon Katrina Brereton, joining us online, submitting a question to Council. Hi, Katrina. Katrina, are you there?
Hang on. Is that better?
Yes, we can
Yes,
hear you
beautiful.
now. If you could state your name and suburb, and then you've got 2 minutes to speak.
Yep. Sure. So my name's Katrina Brereton and I'm a resident of Elwood. So as a female who is a healthcare worker, therefore I'm a shift worker, as many of us are in Elwood community, I'd really like to discuss or hear the council's reasoning why they haven't provided us dog owners, and as you know, the dog ownership in Elwood has been exponentially increased over the last few years, why there isn't an off-leash area where we can safely exercise our dogs, because all dogs, part of responsible dog ownership is allowing dogs off the lead to exercise. In previous years, because I've been here as an 18-year resident of Elwood, I'd be really interested to know why Elwood Primary School green space on the Mitford Street space, why that is no longer allowed as an area, as an off-leash area at 5 a.m, at 10 p.m. at night, when us females are shift workers and out trying to exercise our dogs. It's just not feasible nor safe for us to go to Moran Reserve, Elstonwick Park, which is the suggestions Animal Management has given. I mean, Elstonwick Park's not even part of Port Phillip Council, but we're continually told to go there. We're continually told to go to Moran Reserve. There is no way I will be going to places like that at 5 a.m. to exercise my dogs. I'm told to go to Clark Street, which, as you know, it has got three roads that encircle that park. It's unfenced, and we've got a big children's playground there. So I'm just wondering why we are told to go to places that aren't acceptable, they aren't safe, they aren't well lit, and they're certainly not fenced. And I'd just be really interested to hear the reasoning behind this, because it never used to be this way. It was a shared community space. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go to Dana Pritchard to respond.
Thank you.
Through you, Mayor, Elwood School Reserve is on land managed by the Department of Education, and Council has a joint use agreement with the school for community use of the facilities outside of school hours. It's been a dog off-leash space for an extended period. I'm unsure about the exact history, but we will look into it through the dog off-leash guidelines and through the live petition we have at the moment. At the moment, any changes to the status of this reserve can only be made by Elwood Primary School or the Department of Education. As Council is not the owner or committee of management for the reserve, Council cannot make decisions about the use of the land and can only advocate to Elwood Primary School and the Department of Education for any change in use. Through the development of the dog off-leash guidelines, we're looking for other opportunities in Elwood, and this includes how we can make improvements to our existing dog off-leash areas to make them safer and more accessible. We will use the feedback provided tonight regarding safe spaces to help inform that work. The guidelines will be brought to Council meeting on the 21st of August.
Thank you. Now, Jen Bishop, are you with us online? Not yet. We'll come back to Jen. Okay, now we're going to in person. I call upon Michael Barrett, who is submitting a question to Council. If you want to come and state your name and suburb, and then you'll have 2 minutes, please.
Good evening, Mayor. Michael Barrett from Port Melbourne. Mayor, I've got 2 questions this evening. Do you want me to do them back to back, or would you like me to?
Yes, that's good for everyone. If you could all just ask your questions in a row, and then we'll answer them afterwards. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Mayor, as always, I'll address the question to you, but I believe the question may be answered more effectively by one of the members of the senior leadership team of the City of Port Phillip. I'll leave it to your discretion as to who answers the question. I'm talking in regards to the waste disposal contract for the City of Port Phillip. Clearly, the legal settlement of the City of Port Phillip waste disposal contract is citywide, discussed and approved at the Council meeting of 19th of June 2024. Was timed to coincide with the announcement of the sale of Citywide by the City of Melbourne on the 24th of June 2024.
Point of order. I'm just going to stop you there, Michael. That's actually an error of fact. That is not at all what happened. So if you could just continue on, but that's not an actual fact.
What's not a fact?
There was no approved to coincide. There was none of that. So if you could continue, that's an error of fact.
I'll contest that with you at another
Well, no,
time.
I'm chairing a meeting. I'm telling you it's an error of fact. If you could get to the question, please.
Thanks for your advice there, Mayor. An earlier article in the Herald Sun newspaper of the 2nd of September 2023 referred to the imminent sale of Citywide. In the council meeting following the publication of this article on the 6th of September 2023, I asked the CEO of the City of Port Phillip whether he was aware of the sale of Citywide. He responded in the negative. In the time between this response of the 2nd of September 2023 and the motion of council of 19th of June 2024, could the CEO advise when he was first advised by Citywide as to the proposed sale of the business by the City of Melbourne and their declared reasons for the sale?
Do you want to ask your next question as well, please?
I prefer to have the answer for the first question.
You just asked me before, would you like the two questions? And I said, ask both questions and then we'll respond afterwards. That's what I'd like everyone to do, if that's because it's much easier for us to manage. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Question 2. I understand from a question that I asked at the last council meeting on June 19, 2024, that the City of Port Phillip Risk and Audit Committee will be presenting its annual report to council in one of the scheduled council meetings in August. Could I please have the date on which the committee will be presenting its report? And given some of the risk and audit issues occurring in the City of Port Phillip during the course of 2023-2024, I request that members of the Audit and Risk Committee be physically present at the council meeting and be available to take questions from the public gallery after the presentation of their report to council. Thank you, Mayor. 2 questions in 2 minutes.
That's very good. Good timing.
Thank you.
Okay, so I believe the first part of the question we're going to go to Chris Carroll.
Through you, Mayor. Thank you for the question, Michael. Just firstly to clarify, the timing of our council report wasn't related to the announcement by City of Melbourne and Citywide. We're not aware of the sale at the time of our report, and we did not coordinate with them the release of our report. The first time we were advised by Citywide of the proposed sale was the morning of the sale announcement on the 24th of June via an email from the CEO, which included a copy of the press release. I received a phone call from the City of Melbourne CEO on the same morning advising the same. In response to ongoing media speculation, I had previously asked the CEO of Citywide in a phone call in late February 2024 whether their waste business was being sold. He said there was nothing he was able to discuss with me and he would communicate me on this if and when appropriate. The sale of Citywide's waste business did not form part of our settlement negotiations. Officers were aware that that may have been an eventuality and we planned appropriately in terms of those negotiations for potential outcomes.
And am I going to Jo McNeil for the second question? Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you for the question. So happy to send you the date of that meeting. That's been confirmed at the moment, so I'm happy to follow up with you on that one. Regarding attendance at the meeting by the ARCO committee members, obviously there's councillors on that committee and they will be in attendance. However, it's not part of the remit of the independent members to necessarily attend, so I can follow up with them and with the chair and follow up with you, taking that on notice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, I call upon Alex Macon, who's also submitting a question to Council. Alex, name, suburb, and then you've got 2 minutes.
I'm used to the routine by now. Alex Macon, Port Melbourne, thank you for your time this evening. The Engagement Summary Report of May 2024, commissioned to look at the draft dog off-leash guidelines, notes that written submissions were received as part of the review process. Just wondered if Council could further clarify the context in which those written submissions were received and what level of feedback will be provided around those written submissions. The current summary report doesn't go into the same level of detail around the written submissions as it does to the survey responses, and how, after all that fact, residents or respondents will be notified of what Council has considered as part of those submissions. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Dana Pritchard to respond.
Through you, Mayor. Thanks for your question. The dog off-leash guidelines went out to engagement in May and April earlier this year. We've heard back from the community and the information has all been included in the report published on the website. All feedback received has been read. This includes the submissions we received both via email and through the Have You Say page. And it's been used to inform the guidelines and included in the engagement summary report. We know that the feedback has clearly shown that there's major changes required to the draft off-leash guidelines, and this work is now underway. The updated guidelines will be brought to Council on the 21st of August.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dana.
I call upon Terence Glenane submitting a question to Council. If you could come and state your name and suburb, and then, sir, you've got 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. Terry Glenane, St Kilda, President Dog Owners Group of St Kilda. 2 questions. 1, why has Council not addressed the 8 different time zones that dogs can go on various beaches? We cannot understand why this hasn't been standardised. I can't understand why one beach has one time, 100 metres down the road has totally different times. I would like Council to address this. It would make it a lot easier for all user groups to have a standard time. Number 2, year after year we ask for signage of the beaches. The one classic example of a 24/7 dog off-leash dog beach, which is in a heavily polluted area, and we understand that's fine for dogs, but the signage is literally one A4 page designating that it's a dog beach. So consequently, you have 2 problems. People going onto not seeing the sign, it's impossible to see. I direct people to the signs, they still can't find it. People showing up on beaches that are heavily polluted and shouldn't be there in the first place. And 2 is they're interacting with dogs and they can't understand why dogs are there. They come to the beach with picnics and all sorts of things. Of course, the dogs go for it, and occasionally there's chaos. It's such a simple fix. We've asked it year after year, please put a decent sign up. It hasn't happened. Why hasn't it happened? It's a classic dog beach.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Terry.
you very much.
Dana, you're busy tonight. Could you respond to the questions, please?
Through you, Mayor. Thank you for the question. We are looking at dog off-leash areas, including beaches right across the municipality. In that work, we will look at times of use and whether standardisation is an option. There are some site-specific reasons for different times, and they'll be taken into consideration through this process. The dog signage is part of the implementation plan of the off-leash guidelines, and there will be a project to install them, which will begin post-adoption of the guidelines.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Terry. I call upon Louisa Larkin, also submitting a question. You know the drill, name, suburb and 2 minutes.
I have 2 questions, if that's okay. Louisa Larkin from Port Melbourne. Good evening, councillors, good evening, Mayor, and good evening, Dana Pritchard. My first question is, I understand from Dana that the dog off-leash guidelines will not go ahead in its current form, and I welcome this, so thank you. Given, however, the negative feedback from the whole community on the dog off-leash guidelines, would Council consider dropping them and instead set up a park usage education programme, encouraging respect between all park users, as well as an education programme that focuses on dog owners in open spaces? I know that many dog owners from the length and breadth of Port Phillip would really appreciate being involved in such an education programme.
Do you want to ask your second question as well, please?
Thank you. My second question is, many dog off-leash parks lack adequate lighting. And dog owners, especially women, and I know myself, I have this issue because I have to walk often at night after work. We feel unsafe walking our dogs at night without adequate lighting. What plans does the Open Spaces team have to ensure that safety of dog owners in parks at night?
Dana.
Through you, Mayor. Thank you, Louisa, for your question. The dog off leash guidelines are an action in the public space strategy and the domestic animal management plan. They were included as actions as there were ongoing requests from the community to change conditions of off-leash areas, both for and against. The main purpose of the dog off-leash guidelines is to provide a consistent framework for decision-making for councillors. The updated guidelines will focus on this purpose. When brought to Council on the 21st of August, the report will also consider opportunities for education programs. Alongside the guidelines, we are also developing a design framework for dog off-leash areas, and this will include considerations on how to improve and design for safety in these spaces.
Thank you.
Thank you, Louisa. I believe we've got Jen Bishop online. Are you there, Jen? You need to unmute yourself. Is that what you need to do, Jen? Are you there? We might come back to you again. We're now going to I call upon Justin Halliday submitting a question to Council. If you could state your name and suburb in 2 minutes.
Justin Halliday, St Kilda East. Thank you, Mayor, councillors, council officers. I was meant to be here tonight to recognise Council's updates to the public space strategy and commend Council Laws for the program of acquisitions that will deliver new and expanded parks in St Kilda East and Balaclava. However, yesterday there was an article in The Age which follows a report in Twisk that raises significant probity issues for Council. The article details how the residents of Port Phillip seeking donations from supporters in return for access to the organisation's executive meetings. My question is, what processes does Council have in place to ensure that Cash for Access scheme does not interfere with Council's decision-making process?
Thank you. We'll go to Joanne McNeil to answer the question.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you for the question. So Council requires all councillors and officers to declare and manage conflicts of interest or potential conflicts of interest in accordance with its governance rules. And Council provides training to councillors and staff as well to ensure they understand their conflict of interest obligations. And this is guided by policies and procedures to ensure adherence to the Local Government Act 2020, which overarches everything. The local government governance and integrity regulations 2020 and the governance rules when identifying, disclosing and managing conflicts of interest. It's important to note when talking about this issue that the obligation to identify and disclose a conflict of interest is a personal responsibility of each councillor and each officer. They must monitor their own circumstances and identify and disclose their own conflicts of interest. Our conflict of interest register is publicly available on Council's website. Concerns over how conflicts of interest have been managed can be raised with the Local Government Inspectorate or IBAC. This is because council organisations do not have a role in reviewing such matters. In view of this, it is not appropriate for us to comment further. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I now call upon Adrian King submitting a question to Council. If you could state your name, suburb, and then you've got 2 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, Adrian King, Middle Park. I've got 3 questions. I'll read them out consecutively. Question 1, what is the Council's policy with regards to the bullying of women by a council representative, brackets, any council personnel? Question 2, what legal obligation does the council have to prevent the bullying of women by a council representative? Question 3, if a council representative in the future were to commit an act of bullying against a woman, what are the council review processes involved and what possible sanctions are available to the council?
Thank you. I believe I'll go to Claire Stevens to respond.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Thanks for the question. I'm going to answer these questions together, but in two parts. So firstly, in regards to employees, all council employees, irrespective of gender, are subject to council's policies and procedures, which include our Code of Conduct, Equal Opportunity, Discrimination, Harassment and Bullying Policy, and our Prevention of Sexual Harassment Policy. In addition, council and its staff are subject to comply with relevant legislation, including the OH&S Act, Equal Opportunity Act, Sex Discrimination Act and the Fair Work Act. We take all concerns regarding employee conduct seriously, including allegations of bullying and harassment, irrespective of gender, and take active measures to address these when appropriate within the applicable legislative and organisational employment policy framework. Allegations of behaviour are investigated on their merits, and City of Port Phillip may impose sanctions having regard to the relevant circumstances. This may include, but is not restricted to, termination of employment, disciplinary actions such as warnings, formal requirement to undertake training or counselling, written undertakings that the behaviour has ceased, and or other measures. In regards to councillors, councillors are required to comply with relevant legislation as well, including the OH&S Act, Equal Opportunity Act and so on. Councils are also required to adopt a councillor code of conduct, detailing the need to adhere to the required standards of conduct, as detailed in Schedule 1 of the Local Government Governance and Integrity Regulations 2020. This includes requirements around the positive treatment of others. Council has adopted the Councillor Code of Conduct, and all councillors have signed it in accordance with the Local Government Act. And the Councillor Conduct framework set out in the Local Government Act 2020 provides for the management of councillor conduct and councillor behaviour. Under the Councillor Conduct framework, complaints of misconduct by a councillor are heard and determined under the council's internal arbitration process by an independent arbiter. Complaints of serious misconduct by a councillor are heard and determined by councillor conduct panels, and allegations of gross misconduct are dealt with by VCAT. Concerns over councillor behaviour can be raised with the Local Government Inspectorate or IBAC, and this is because council organisations do not have a role in reviewing such matters. Thanks.
Thank you. Now we've got a couple of blue sheets, so I'm going to go to Brenda Forbath. If you could state your name, suburb and 2 minutes, please.
Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Mayor. My question goes to the article in The Age today, Council.
Brenda, sorry, name and suburb. Apologies, sorry. I'm daydreaming myself.
Can you hear me? Like many people I know...
No, sorry, I don't think you stated your name and suburb for the record.
Sorry, Brenda Forbath, St Kilda. Like many people I know, I'm very concerned about the content of the article in The Age today, headed Councillors Ask Watchdog to investigate fund scheme. And I can see from that article that 6 of our 9 councillors have been so concerned about the Cash for Access fundraising scheme launched by the residents of Port Phillip in May this year, that they've referred the scheme for investigation by IBAC, the Minister for Local Government and the Local Government Inspectorate. So my question, 2 questions arise from that. Has the CEO conducted any sort of investigation of the issues at the heart of this article prior to the councillor's letter being sent or even subsequently to that? And secondly, given that there's a council election in October, could these issues that the article raises have an impact on the integrity of the council election process?
Okay, thank you. Joanne McNeill. Just a reminder, if you need to have a conversation, could you take it outside? And thank you.
Through you, Mayor, thank you. As I mentioned for an earlier question on this same topic, Council does require all councillors and officers to declare and manage potential conflicts of interest in accordance with the governance rules, and provides training and support in order for everybody to individually fulfil their responsibilities. Concerns over how conflict of interest is managed for councillors is not the role of the organisation, it is the role of the Local Government Inspectorate or IBACT. Therefore, the organisation has not undertaken its own investigation into this matter, but we will support any investigation that is undertaken. Thank you.
And final speaker tonight, Annabelle Jones. Annabelle, if you could take your seat and state your name and suburb, and then you've got 2 minutes, please.
Annabelle Jones at Port Melbourne, and my question again is in relation to the draft guidelines of the off-leash dog area. My question is that given the large number of registrations we have in the city of Port Phillip, over $500,000 a year has been raised. Where has this money been spent, and in particular towards the pet community? We do need another off-leash fenced area. Surely those funds could be spent there. Thank you.
Yeah, Dana, this might be you again.
Through you, Mayor, I can't comment as to where the money has exactly been spent with regards to registrations, but there is funding for another dog off-leash fenced park within the 10-year budget as an action within the public space strategy. And there's also funding associated with the delivery of the off-leash dog areas, the off-leash dog guidelines as well.
And we'll go to the CEO wants to add something.
Yes, through you, Mayor. Thank you for the question. We will also provide a written response where we can give you some more information about the operating costs associated with animal management activities. We do have several animal management team employed who help with education and also sometimes enforcement. So some of that money goes towards that resourcing as well, but we can give you a more detailed breakdown as part of that.
I'm going to try one more time. Is Jen Bishop online? Jen, can you hear me this time? I'm not having much luck. That's all right. There's a council meeting in a couple of weeks. All right, we'll leave it there. So thank you, everyone. We are now going to councillor question time. Councillors, do you have any questions you'd like to raise? I have one. The theme of the night has been dogs. So my question is to officers, probably you, Dana. Can we get clarity, just so that you put it on public record for the community, around the Peanut Farm and Lagoon Reserve, and whether they are changing in terms of not being confirmed to the community their status in terms of dog off leash?
Through you, Mayor, we are currently alongside the guidelines, we're also looking at dog off-leash areas across the municipalities to see how restrictions could be modified for opportunities for new off-leash areas, so fenced and unfenced. We can confirm that there's no intention to change the restrictions at Peanut Farm or Lagoon Reserve, and both will be remaining dog off-leash areas. As previously stated, the guidelines, petition responses and potential new dog parks will be brought to Council to consider on the 21st of August.
Thank you. Councillors, do we have any other questions for officers? If not, we're going on to the sealing schedule. We do not have any items for sealing on tonight's agenda. And believe it or not, we have no petitions or joint letters, so we will move through that to 8 to 13, which is the presentation of reports. So the first report we're going to go to is, I think it's 10.1, which is the Public Space Strategy 2024 update. Do we have any questions for the officers in regards to this report? Yes. Are there no questions? Councillors, we have...
Sorry, if I could ask one, Chair.
Oh, yes, sorry. Councillor Pearl?
No, that's okay. No troubles at all. If I could ask two quick questions. First one is in relation to the plan refers to advocacy from the City of Port Phillip to the State Government regarding the implementation of the Albert Park Master Plan. Can officers give an update on what the current status of the Master Plan is and what communication, if any, has been provided to Council by the State Government?
Is that Dana again?
Yeah. Through you, Mayor. Our understanding is that the Albert Park, are we talking, sorry, can I just, for clarity, are we talking about the Albert Park Sports Plan or the Albert Park Public Space Master Plan?
Public Space Master Plan, I assume it's referred to in, just trying to find the exact item I'm referring to. It's in Attachment 2. Albert Park Reserve, to advocate to Parks Victoria for the implementation of the Albert Park Reserve Master Plan, item 9, under Attachment 2.
Through you, Mayor, I'll take that one on notice and provide an update later.
Okay. The second question, if I may, is in relation to page 13, which is the new projects in relation to Fisherman's Bend Australia Post site. When will Council get a roadmap in terms of the project plan? And when can the public start to see a formation of the project plan specifically for that project?
Through you, Mayor, we have got a briefing for councillors coming up in July for early information on that project. Then we're about to go out to a consultant to have someone prepare designs. So later on in the year, we expect that we will be going out to the community to speak to them further on that project, and we'll have a project plan at that point.
So, sorry, that was towards the end of this year?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Are there any other questions, councillors? We do have an officers' recommend. We've actually got an officers' alt-rec, which is on the screen, to address some slight adjustments we needed to make. Some projects we omitted. So do I have a mover and a seconder for this alt-rec, which just includes the RF Julia pump track, which is about to come online very excitingly, and the Eldersmith netball courts? Councillor Sirikoff to move, Councillor Bond to second. Councillor Sirikoff, would you like to speak to the item?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, it's great to see that we've got this strategy in place for so many locations across the City of Port Phillip, and I think we've got everything in place going forward for the next 10 years.
Councillor Bond? Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion?
If I could, Chair.
Yes, Councillor Pearl.
No trouble. This is the core business of the City of Port Phillip and Council, and it's exciting to see the granularity of which we've been able to go through these projects. So there's virtually no area, particularly in Gateway Ward and, well, the west and the east of the municipality, that are untouched in terms of pretty structural change to those areas to improve the access, the accessibility, obviously, and the usability of our open space. We have a finite amount of open space that Council needs to prioritise between all members of the community, not just sporting clubs, not just dog users, but also a wide range of people that use our open space to improve mental health, improve physical fitness, and just make the city as beautiful as it can possibly be. It's a good detailed plan, but the most exciting thing and component of this plan is the Australia Post site, in my view anyway, in Port Melbourne. That will change the game for open space at the west end of our district, and it will provide open space for thousands of people, particularly sporting clubs, to be able to use it for recreational use and also amateur sports ability. So obviously not in the term of this council, but well within the scope of the plan that we're approving here today. That is the cornerstone project, I think, of this plan, and it's something I'm very excited about.
Any other councillors wish to speak to the motion? I might briefly say it is very exciting. as opposed to the Australia Post site, I would say the addition of new open space in East St Kilda and Balaclava is equally as exciting at the other end. And I do want to thank the community for your advocacy, long-term advocacy around that to get us to this point. Not all of them are obviously revealed yet. But some, and will come online over the next couple of years, but it really will change the game for adjusting the equality of open access to open space. So I know that that is something, and Councillor Baxter would be saying the same thing if he was here tonight, that it is a particularly passion project of his. So yes, very happy that to adjust and accept this update. Councillor Sirikoff, would you like to close? No, let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Okay, so we're moving on to 13.2, which is the records of informal meetings of council. Councillors, any questions of the officers in regards to this report? If not, could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Martin to move, Councillor Clark to second. Councillor Martin, would you like to speak to it? Councillor Clark? No, anyone else? Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Okay, surprisingly, it's one of those nights tonight. We have no notices of motion either. Councillors, reports by councillor delegates, which is item 15 on the agenda. Do we have anyone that would like to report, update us from the various committees? I might quickly make a couple of statements that Councillor Bond and I are in the thick of community grants and CDF grants and festival grants and Rupert Bunny grants, and I just wanted to say the standard, we have a lot of great community groups doing amazing things in our city and creative people, and it's just amazing to see. So they will be coming out in the next couple of months, but we are very much in the thick of making those decisions now. Any other? Councillor Martin?
Very briefly, since the last meeting, I've attended 2 of our advisory committee meetings, the LGBTIQA+ and the OPAC. An issue came up in both of those, and that is when council goes into caretaker mode, our advisory committees cease to exist and they're not reconstituted until the new council is convened. And the request from both of those groups is that the next council, when it first convenes in November, look as a matter of urgency at getting the advisory committees reactivated, up and running, and finding appropriate councillors to be part of that. So can my current colleagues just take on notice that if you are members of the next council, I'm sure there'll be very formal correspondence from those 2 advisory committees.
Any other councillors?
If I could quickly, Chair, if possible,
yes.
I'm the council's representative along with Councillor Bond on the South Melbourne Market Management Committee, and pleased to report to councillors that on the recent attendance report that we are reaching record attendance at the market in pre-COVID world, which is good, and also a significant change officers have made to trader engagement meetings, which are now being restored to be held at the market and also segmented out into user groups, which also have hit very good numbers. I wouldn't say record numbers because COVID was the record, obviously, given the amount of change that was going on, but they're well attended and the feedback received from traders has been very good. Obviously, today marks the first meeting in our new financial year, and the market will be providing its annual report to councillors to review shortly. And one of the key components of objectives of the market was financial sustainability, and I'm very pleased, as I'm sure Councillor Bond is, to see the progress that the market staff has made in that regard. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you. I just remind the gallery, please, if you have a conversation you need to have, if you could take it offline. I know we're about to close the doors anyway, but please, it's not a time for chatting. Councillors, urgent business. Do you have any items of urgent business? No? Then we're going to move on to confidential matters. We do actually have 4 confidential reports listed on the agenda. That's the South Melbourne Market Committee membership, the St Kilda Town Hall chiller replacement, a property matter, and the South Melbourne Market Cleaning and Waste Management Services Award. So I now call on a councillor to move that the meeting be closed to members of public. Councillor Nyagui, and do I have a seconder? Councillor Bond. So thank you. I'll put that motion to vote to close the doors. That is carried. Carried. So, councillors, thank you to for everyone coming along today. We now conclude this part of the meeting, and I thank you all in the gallery for coming. This is the conclusion of the public meeting. Please feel free to share some of that information with your communities tonight, that the peanut farm and Lagoon Reserve are definitely remaining as off-leash dog off-leash areas. Let them know. We'd love you to let them know. Thank you.